So we're going to start this one off by jumping right into an Instagram reel that I posted a few months ago that went viral. It got close to 7 million views. So pay attention.
One thing I try to never, ever, 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 ever say to my kids when they do something great. Like say my daughter comes up, Dad, I drew this picture for you. Look. And it's a beautiful picture. The thing I try to never say is, good job, I love it. What do I say instead? Can you guess? It sucks! Better! Do better! No, I'm kidding. What do I say instead? I ask her, how do you feel about it? Because what does that do? Then it gets her to start thinking internally, how do I feel about what I just created here? And then whatever she says, I'll reaffirm. Because otherwise, what if I'm always the one saying, good job, you did great. Oh, I love it. That's the best drawing ever. It creates this always look an external perspective, and it's going to train her to become the ultimate people pleaser. I did this. Do you like it? Do you like it? It's not good enough unless I get the external feedback that is good enough versus looking within. How do you feel about it?
Now, the first thing that I want to say when it comes to this reel, and this was mentioned in the comments below, people asking me, Julien, why don't you also say good job, right? Why not both? And the answer to that is, of course, I do both. The reason I say I try to never, ever, ever, ever say good job is because that's my default, right? If one of my daughters comes up to me and she's like, Dad, look at this. Look at what I made. Look at what I did. Every part of me, every part of my body, every part of my soul is screaming out, good job. That is amazing. That is the greatest thing ever. Oh my God. That's the default. So I have to fight that and try to never, ever, ever, ever say it, and instead replace it with this question, this very powerful question, by the way. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about it? That question there. So in the end, of course I say both. Of course. But I try to ask this question as much as I can because, once more, I don't want to condition my daughters to become the ultimate people pleasers, chasing good job. Everything they do, it's not good enough unless I get the good job. And that good job starts with words as a parent, but then people will chase it in all these different ways, chasing the good job. Right? I need to make money. Did I get the good job? Am I good enough yet? I need to do this. I need the approval. I need more good jobs. Terrible. Okay, so by asking that question, I'm stopping that conditioning in my daughters. But what am I also doing? And this is something to really let it land. What am I also doing? I'm bringing their point of orientation from always looking out here to looking in here. And I'm teaching them how to value and trust themselves, something a lot of people have lost, unfortunately. I see this sometimes in clients that I have when it comes to coaching, letting go, and transformational work. They might come to an event and they ask me a question, right? And it's a question that they've wanted to ask me for a very long time. And they're finally there and they ask the question. And before jumping to the answer, I'll ask them, what do you think the answer is to this question? And they give me their answer, right? They'll usually pause for a bit and then give me their answer. And more often than not, it's the right answer. And all I say after that is, yep, you're right. That's the right answer. Now you might be thinking, well, what do you mean they already knew the right answer? Why are they asking the question? Well, they're asking the question not looking for the answer because they have it. They're asking the question because they want me to validate their answer. That's why. People don't trust themselves. They don't trust that voice within, so they need external feedback to validate what's going on inside for them to trust it. That's how it works, right? Think back to when you were younger. As a child, I'm sure you've experienced this or instances similar to this. You're in class and the teacher asks you a question and the answer pops up, but you don't trust yourself. You don't trust the answer, so you stay quiet. And someone else speaks up, gives the right answer, and in your mind you're like, I knew it. I should have said it. Hey, very similar. You didn't trust yourself. You didn't trust what's going on in here. Or in class growing up, you're writing down some answer or in a test or something, and say you look over to the person next to you, you're like, oh, they're writing it down too. Okay. Like it validates what you're doing. People chase this, validate what I'm doing. Even if you think of coaches when it comes to accountability, right? Like say going to the gym. Why do people need someone to tell them, lift the weights? Because if that voice inside says it, if you tell it to yourself, hey, lift the weights, you don't trust or value that voice. You've lost that trust and valuing of what's going on inside. So bringing it back to the question, say someone from a young age was asking you, how do you feel about it? And you look within. And then when you say how you feel about it, that person then validated it too. And that's what I do after. How do you feel about this? Oh yeah, I love it. That's great, me too. It's once more, it's okay to look within and speak what's going on inside. I can look within. I can trust myself. Look how trusting myself turned out to be right again and again and again. How do you feel about it? And as a little side note here too, instead of simply validating what they say, I also like sprinkling in comments that value the experience of it versus the end result. So if, say, one of my daughters comes up to me and she's like, Dad, look at this drawing. Instead of saying, well, one, how do you feel about it? Oh, I love it so much. Yeah, me too. It's a great drawing. I'll say something like, yeah, me too. That must have been a lot of work. How did you do this? And she'll show me, oh, I drew it like this. Oh, how did you do that? That must have been really hard. So again, praising the process more so than just the outcome that you see, right? So this is something that I incorporated when it comes to parenting my daughters, building on it and especially validating their response when they look within, right? Encouraging them to look within. Again, speak it out, to trust themselves. If you zoom out, another big thing that I try to do is constantly validate their experience, constantly validate their reality. Right? So say we take a very simple example when it comes to emotions. And say one of my daughters is really sad. The default, similar to good job, the default is you want to go to your child and cheer them up. I want to go to my daughter and say, hey, don't be sad. Here, let's be happy. Right? Why be sad when you could be happy? And although you could say it's well-intentioned, because I don't want to see my daughter sad, what does it do? And how does it once more condition your child? Well, if I go up to my daughter and say, hey, let's be happy. There's no reason to be sad. Look, right? Look, we're having a great meal here. We're all having a good time. Yeah, no reason to be sad. It's telling her that feeling sad in this moment is not okay. It's not good to feel this. And this leads to inner resistance and ultimately disowning, suppression, and repression. Oh, sadness is not okay. And this really destroys someone when it comes to their self-esteem. So I try to not do that. Now, a more toxic approach, in my opinion, which also conditions your child to stuff it down, that it's not okay, is the more aggressive approach that I see parents do, right? Say you're out in public with your child, right? Parent with their child. I'll see parents say, hey, don't be sad. Put a smile on that face. We're out in public. Oh, you're making people feel uncomfortable feeling sad, right? Or even say you're at home. You're like, if you're going to be sad, go into the other room and then come back when you're feeling happy, right? No, none of this sadness. Go in the room. Oh, you're going to keep crying? Go in the other room. Terrible, in my opinion. But once more, this will lead to this is not okay. If you think about your child's experience, you once more put yourself in their shoes, right? Advanced empathy. What do they want to hear, right? When you're really sad, what do you want to hear? Do you want a friend to come up to you and say, hey, don't be sad. No. What do we all truly want to hear deep down inside? It's someone who comes up to us and says, hey, it's okay to feel what you're feeling, and I'm going to be here with you as you feel it. That's what we want to hear, right? You're feeling sad. Hey, it's okay to feel this. I'm going to be here with you as you feel it. Someone to validate our experience. Hey, it's okay to feel what you're feeling. That's the rule that I go by. It's okay to feel what you're feeling, no matter what my daughters feel, right? They could also be having a tantrum. They could be screaming. They could be angry. I'm going to validate their experience, validate their reality. It's okay to feel this. And especially say they, for example, get into a dispute. They get into a fight. And, my eldest daughter, instance that kind of pops in my mind, comes to me after, and she's telling me her side of the story. What does she actually need inside? It's someone to validate her experience. Someone to say, hey, that's your side of the story. I hear you. I get it. And I'm here with you. And it's okay to feel what you're feeling. That's the answer, right? Instead, I've seen parents do, and I've fallen into this trap too. I'm not perfect. When, she'll come, it's like, oh, but there was this and this and this. It's like, I don't want to hear it. You shouldn't be doing that, right? Oh, that's terrible. That devalidates their reality. I don't want to hear it. What? No, right? Your experience, no, is wrong. It's not important. It's inaccurate. It's not good. Instead, it's, listening, even repeating back what your child says. Right? Oh, and this thing. Oh, so this happened, and that's how you're feeling? Oh, I understand. Yeah, that must be tough. That must be hard. You must be having big feelings right now. Right? Validating their experience. Another saying that I love, which I wrote down here, and I got this from Dr. Becky Kennedy. She was on the Huberman podcast. And she said, I believe you. And I love that. I was like, that's an amazing way of saying it. Dad, and this, and that, and she did that. Hey, I believe you. That's what we're after. Now, bring it back to yourself here. Think of the last time, say you might have gotten into an argument with someone that you know, and you're really mad. You're like, that person did this, da-da-da. What do you actually want? Like, what's the outcome you secretly want? Right? You might be thinking, well, to get back at them, etc. I'm going to show them. No, what you secretly want is for them to understand your experience. That's it. You want someone to see how it affected you, to understand how it affected you, right? Say someone says something or does something that hurts you. You're like, that was hurtful what they said. You want them to know deep down inside, like, hey, this is how it hurt me. See my experience. See me. See what I'm going through. We all want this. So I try to bring this when it comes to raising my daughters. I'm like, what you're feeling is valid. What you're experiencing is valid. What you're going through is valid. It's okay, once more, to feel what you're feeling. It's okay to experience what you're experiencing. And it can be hard as a parent too, because what they're feeling could also trigger you, right? If it's in the middle of a tantrum, it's like, hey, it's okay to feel what you're feeling. Keep feeling this. You're like, no. But you realize that approach, once more, it avoids or mitigates suppression and repression. But also when it comes to emotions, whatever you resist persists. If you're saying things that go against what they're feeling, it'll cause them to resist it, and what they're feeling will last longer. So the tantrum will last longer. As opposed to, hey, keep feeling what you're feeling. It's okay. I'm here with you as you feel it. And with children, but I also think this also applies to adults, once things calm down a bit, say it's a tantrum, let it calm down first. But in most cases, the best answer you can give is just put your arms out and wait for them to come to you and give them a hug. Right? We always jump to the mind. They're dealing with this. What do I say? How do I explain it to them? It's more so like, hey, come here, and just hug. And then in the intention, it's, It's okay to feel what you're feeling. Okay. Another thing I wrote down here too, which I brought into my parenting style, and I got this from one of my certified coaches when it comes to running Transformation Mastery live events. He has kids. They're older than mine, and he also coaches, I think it's soccer, right, for kids in high school. And the line that I wrote down, which he told me, and I was like, this is gold, is because you are you. Because you are you. So the story he shared is he's talking about coaching these high schoolers when it comes to soccer. And he's like, I start off every practice, every game by having everyone lined up. And one by one, I go to them and I ask them, why do you deserve to be on this team? And there's only one correct answer: because I am me. And he'll say at first, right, they'll all try to justify it because, oh, I'm great at kicking the ball, right? I'm a fast runner, et cetera, et cetera. But once more, then it's basing their confidence on external things, situational confidence as opposed to core confidence. And he's like, nope. There's only one right answer: because you are you. And he told me he does this with his own children, right? Like say, do you know why I love you? The only right answer: because I am me. And I was like, that's golden. And I started implementing it. And I remember the first few times I would say this to my eldest daughter. The second one wasn't born yet. And I would say it before going to bed. I was like, I love you. Do you know why I love you? And I was also curious to see what she said. She's like, oh, because I would show like, oh, wait, you think that your love, that my love is just based on this external thing. So insights into core beliefs. But I told her, no, because you are you. And every time I'd remind her, because you are you. Right? And that too, once more, core confidence. Because I am me. Right? We all try to justify our existence, justify who we are, and we compensate. We're like, look, I'm really good at this skill. Am I good now? Oh, hey, I'm really funny and I'm good at school. Do my parents love me now? Versus no, simply because you are you. That's all you have to do, or more precisely, be. Right? You're not born to justify your existence. You're born to live. You're born to be. That's the foundation. So that's something I started saying at bedtime now. Every time it's like, I love you. Do you know why? And it's like, because you are you. And another side note here, and this is something that can help you and has helped me tremendously when it comes to charisma, is when going to bed, right? Because you are you. I always tell my daughter a story, right? So from when she was born, my wife and I were always reading stories, reading, books. And at some point, I want to say around 2.5, maybe close to 3 between that, with my eldest daughter, we started making up stories. And at first it was just me. So instead of reading a book, I'd make up a story. And with time, she wanted to join in and we'd start making up stories together. And this is what we do now. Before going to bed, we all sit down and make up a story together. And I love this because it hits on imagination, it hits on play, it hits on creativity. But starting out, I'll rewind time, specifically when it comes to charisma, I had to tell every single night a brand new story. And you can do this challenge even if you don't have kids, by the way. So imagine you now have a fictional child or a real child. And every night you have to tell your child a story, and it has to be new. It has to be captivating. The stakes have to be high. There has to be this certain arc in the story. And every single night it's new. So you can't just say the same one again or just change a couple components. It's always fresh. I found that it was fun at first. I'm like, oh, there's this story. And I just kind of make stuff up. And after a while, I'm like, this is pretty challenging. But then you get over that hump, and then you can start also thinking, well, how can I embed certain lessons in these stories? So for my daughter, especially now, she's really into all the Disney, my eldest daughter. She's into all the Disney princess movies, right? So a lot of the stories now have to incorporate these characters. And again, I foot on the gas. I take it to the limit with these stories in terms of the arc, right? Like it'll start off strong. It's like, Snow White is on top of a volcano and she's having everyone over, all the princesses, for their princess dinner. But suddenly Rapunzel, I know all the princesses, slips and almost falls off and she's about to fall into the volcano. But Mulan reaches out and grabs her hand, but then the hand slips. And there's this whole, again, I embody it, I bring it. But this really, again, this whole build up too, by the way, and the story always ends beautifully, right? And now I embed a lot of lessons in it too. But on a purely charisma level, this really forces you to, one, be really good at improvising, right? Like a lot of the time, I would start a story and I'd have no idea where it goes. Right? I'd be like, once upon a time, there were two worms. Like that was right off the top of my head. Once upon a time, there were two worms and they were looking in the dirt for some water. And they found this swimming pool and one fell in the pool. Like all this is right off the top of my head. And then I spin a story. So it'll force you to get good at improv. And then especially if you embody it, the different characters, the voices, etc., the speaking style, it had a tremendous effect on my charisma. Okay, the improv bedtime story challenge. But that's one of my favorite things to do. And like I said, it hits on play and imagination, where, and this is something I'm personally really big in, by the way, just really anything that encourages imagining, playing, dreaming, in a way that's what we all even, desire deep down inside as adults. It's a play. If you think of your quote unquote purpose in life, it's play, right? It's imagination. Like me here talking about this, doing this podcast, it's play. It feels like play. It's this it's like, I love this, the creation and dreaming. And it's kind of this, like, I'm awake while dreaming states, saying these words. Like I have a few bullets, but all this is improv. It's like, you're creating this thing and being in it and witnessing it at the same time. And I love bringing that into my daughter's lives. So the stories is a big one. And I love now that, both of them actually participate in the stories. And I'm like, and then what happened? And she'll say, and then this. And we like bounce off of each other and create these stories. I'm big on that. I remember for, myself to some extent, the default that I had wasn't necessarily someone who encouraged imagination. It was more so someone who, say, hey, but be more realistic. Right? I feel like a lot of people do that. It's like, those dreams, you should be realistic. That's not for you. Right? I actually saw a couple weeks ago a parent say that, their kid was like, da-da-da-da-da, and this. And it's like, oh, you can't do that. That's not how the world works. I'm like, wait, what? That's not how it's like you're just stomping on the dreams from a young age, to the point where, again, what does that do to your child? It gets them to doubt themselves and ultimately doubt their own intuition, or that, voice of intuition. It's always funny how if you ask a kid, what do you want to do after a certain age? What do you want to do, or who do you want to be when you grow up? Right? What do you want to do for work when you grow up? The majority have an answer. Now, it might be, from an adult perspective, perhaps unrealistic, right? I want to be an astronaut. I want to be this. I want to be that. But they all know. And it usually is encouraged when they're younger and then discouraged later, right? At a certain point, it's, hey, those dreams were cute and great when you were young, but it's time to grow up, right? Grow up, Peter Pan. And it can condition people to once more start saying, oh, well, I guess my own intuition, that spark within that came from me, is wrong. And if it's wrong, it means that I can't always trust it or listen to it. And then through life, it just gets stomped out to the point where that voice is so quiet or completely silent. And that's why if you ask a lot of adults, what's your purpose? Nothing speaks up. So then as an adult, it's about reconnecting and gaining that trust back. But for myself, no, I will never downplay, what they want to do or say or play or create. Say, oh, that's not for you. It's no, yes, dream, imagine. Yeah, so yeah, a little side note with that. But bedtime stories, a lot goes down, right? Bedtime stories, because you are you. And I guess one more thing I'll share is, I said growing up, I didn't have much of that. I did. Like I said, it wasn't terrible. But the person growing up who believed in me the most, and we've had ups and downs throughout life, but at a young age, was my grandmother. She was that person who would always encourage play. She's very creative herself, and she would always encourage, dream big, play. Yes. Like anything I would do, it's like, oh, that's amazing. If I would draw, she kept some of the drawings to this day. Like if I even draw on a napkin, she'd be like, sign it, Julien, put the date. You'll want this when you're a famous artist, right? Or with music, I played a lot of guitar and I'd compose growing up. And she was always the person I was the most excited to show my songs to. And she would always say, oh, it's so great. She always believed in me. And that had a tremendous impact in terms of, for me in my life, taking risks, pursuing my purpose, moving across the world. A lot of that came from, again, having someone who believes in you. And it's a cheesy saying, but it's a true one. Sometimes all it takes is just one person. That's it. One person who believes in you. So why not be that person for your kids? You can, of course, guide them. You can educate them, right? They say, hey, here's what I want to do. You'd be like, well, let's talk about it. But in the end, why not believe in them and again, encourage that healthy relationship with themselves? How do you feel about it? Looking within, self-trust, right? Validating what's going on, self-trust. I believe you. Oh, self-trust, because you are you. I am good enough. Yes, I'm good enough for me. All I have to be is me. And then again, believing in them and encouraging big dreams. Dream big. So, straight into it this time. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. Let me know your comments. Biggest takeaways here below. I personally read, by the way, through every single comment. And as always, until next time.